Okay, so that means I'm going to Workbench.
Well, you are. You're headed to Workbench.
Okay, so the myth that we're going
Pick
to
it
talk about, I'm sure we've talked about this before, is metal versus plastic, and I thought I'd bring it up again because I had somebody stop in with a machine that another repair person didn't even want to touch. They looked at the model, the timing was off, and they're like, your gears are broken, and then that led to the whole discussion of plastic versus metal because the other machine she had actually had a broken gear in it, and so I just wanted to talk about that. Everybody's the old school myth that metal is better than plastic is not true. When it comes to sewing machines, what happened was that when Singer transitioned from their metal gears to their plastic gears, it was in the early stages of what do they call them, polymers. So the plastic sucked, and
So it used to be true.
it used to
It
be
used
true.
to be
Well,
true.
and the problem was also compounded by the fact that the lubricants that they were using for metal gears actually degraded the plastic gears because because the way the polymers were made back then. So it was a combination of the plastic was kind of iffy in the first place,
Yeah.
but it probably would have worked fine if you didn't lubricate it because the greases and the oils are what killed it. But newer machines, there's probably no metal gears in them at all. There might be one or two, but there's none. Most of them are a nice nylon composite. They're really nice self-lubricating, makes them lighter. The other nice thing about a plastic gear versus a metal gear is plastic breaks and you can see the problem. Metal bends, and it bends on a machine like this, the tolerances can be tight, and just a little bend in a shaft or a gear tooth will jam your machine up and it'll be next to impossible to find. But what I really wanted to show you all was the myth, or not the myth, what led to this entire...
There's piece of my chickens were on the floor.
This is a Singer, I can't remember the model. It's related to the touch and sew is going to be very similar to this. And what you've got down here is there's two gears. These were the gears that often would break on these machines. This gear here, you would lose the teeth on that, and then you can't really, let me see if I can change the angle a little bit so you can see that one. And then the gear up here is where you'd lose the teeth. So this is where that plastic gears are awful stuff comes from, is these machines, these two gears here would actually get stripped out. And there's actually a gear kit you can buy to swap these out. It was so prevalent. You can still buy them on Amazon, and this machine is like 40 years old.
Whoa.
So that should tell you what you need to know about these machines. Now there's another version of this where instead of rotating, it actually swings. If I rotate if I can do this, and so as I rotate that whole thing, so those are circular. There is another version of this machine where this actually swings instead of rotates, and that gear will sometimes get stripped. And what'll often happen is you'll find that there's teeth missing on these. So if you ever have a machine like this, the bottom is easy to pull off, and you can just look at the gears and see if the teeth are missing. But that's where the metal versus plastic issue came from. Is these gears used to strip out pretty frequently. Usually, the time frame on it was usually within 5 or 6 years of being new, because of if you use the wrong lubricant. Not all of them did it because it would depend what you were using for lubricants. But that would strip those out.
Wow.
And the other one that I saw is this down. And then this one
What's that gunk in there? Is that
that's all
debris
grease.
or grease?
That's all grease.
Grease.
And the other one, this is your feed dog. And I've actually saw this for the first time this week. Was this gear here actually stripped out on a machine? And so the feed dogs weren't working. But it was about the same vintage. I usually see these gears go, but the feed dog one made of the same material, so you grease it up, it could go as well. But that's where that comes from. If you've got something that looks like this.
I think I learned on something that looks
Yeah, these were
like
very
that.
popular. There's a ton of them out there. There's a couple different versions of it, but the shape is pretty similar to this. All of those, the newer ones, this is a newer one, running into that problem. The older ones are the ones where you ran into that issue. The Touch and Sew series was famous for this. Well, not necessarily all the Touch and Sew, because some of them use the
We've come
belt.
a long way.
But that is where the metal versus plastic.
Reverse, forward.
Yeah, that's where the metal versus plastic comes from. Is those two gears would get stripped out, and it's not necessarily true anymore. In fact, most of your new machines, that's almost some of them that's actually a closed unit, especially like on a Husqvarna or a Viking. That's actually the whole thing is sealed, and you can't get at that.